All right, here we go. And so operations on functions, but this time we're going to approach it graphically. So I think these are really fun problems, and I hope you enjoy them as well. So first off, we're going to graph y equals x squared. And that's a parabola open on up. And there we go, y equals x squared. Now show the graphs of y equals x squared plus 2, and then y equals x squared minus 3. So think if we took every point on this graph, every input, we went through it, and then added 2 to it. We're going to be raising the entire function by 2. And so we have 1, 2. Now it's the same function other than the entire thing's been raised by 2. All right, and we could maybe think through, hey, how would I write that as a composite function? And so first of all, we would need an f of x to write out. So maybe f of x equals x squared. That would give us our parabola here. Now, how would I write a function that would give me that same x, but raise the whole thing by 2? And maybe something like g of x is going to be x and then plus 2. And now if I made it as a composite function, if I have g of f of x, I end up with, well, g of x is x plus 2. But instead of x right here, I'm going to plug in f of x. And what is f of x? It's x squared. So I end up with x squared plus 2. And what's happened is that I've just raised that whole function, again, by 2. And now y equals x squared minus 3. Hopefully you're seeing kind of what would happen if last time we added 2. This time we're subtracting 3, and last time we went up 2, so we're going to drop down 3. And there's our parabolas. Okay, so we've just, one way to talk about it would be that we transformed it and translated it, raising it 2 or subtracting it 3. And now let's look at a little more kind of in-depth question. And it says now it's written in function form, add f of x and g of x. And so their outputs, add them together to get your new graph. And then remember when we added composite functions, or sorry, not composite, when we're adding functions, we find our output for f of x, find our output for g of x, and whatever the operation is, right here it's adding. We'd go ahead and do that. So let's start with when x is 0, because let's call the parabola, we'll call that one g of x, and the line we'll call f of x. So g of x is going to be the one here in blue. F of x will be here in red. And in green, we'll kind of put our result when we add the output. So if I start at x equals 0, well, g of x gives me an output of 0, and f of x gives me an output of 3. So what is 0 plus 3? Well, it's 3. And there's our first point. Next, if I, it looks like each box here is worth half. So if I add, when x is 1, my output here is -1, and my output here is -2. So what's -1 plus -2? Well, it's -3. Okay, so I've got 2 points right there. And notice they're at the same y value. They're both at -3. So let's go back to that half. What is, if I plug in half for x, I get an output of, looks like about a quarter right there. So -1/4 plus -2.5 gives me a total of -3.25. Or -2 3/4, sorry, -2 3/4. And we're just going to go through and find the rest of our outputs and our inputs and start getting the rest of these points on our line. So if I plugged in -1, I'd have what's -1 plus -4? Well, that's -5. If I plugged in -2, my output would be -4 and -5. So -4 and -5 is -9. That's going to be way down here somewhere. As I plug in more positive x values, 2, my output is -1 and where's that going to hit? -1, -4, which gives me -5. I probably should be using different greens here. Sorry about that. But our output, our result when we add f of x plus g of x is going to be this shape right here. It's just combining the output from g of x, adding it to f of x, and that new value would be where my new graph would be. All right, hope that helped. Or actually, let me go through explicitly and kind of just spell that out for us. So what was f of x? F of x, oops, it was in red, wasn't it? F of x is going to be y equals, or f of x equals x, it's got a positive slope of 1, minus 3. It's a linear graph. And then our g of x, the blue one here, is equal to negative x squared. It's just a parabola, but it's been flipped upside down, so negative x squared. And if we were to add those together, so what would f of x plus g of x be? F of x plus g of x equals, well, that'd be negative x squared plus x minus 3. There's our function written more algebraically. And over here on the side, we can see what our graph would be. You could plug in all your various points. You can look at it. It's a quadratic, so it's going to behave just like a regular parabola. You can find your axis of symmetry, your y-intercept, all of that good stuff. And we got it from adding f of x plus g of x. So hope that helped.